Overwatch Competitive has the worst competitive system in the world, and I think everyone can agree with me here. So what exactly is the problem with competitive? Well, there's so many problems, it feels like an endless list, from queuing, matchmaking, and even the ranked system. Coming into Overwatch 2, the devs promised a better competitive system, but the entire Overwatch community across all regions feel that the system has gotten worse, not better. Rather than listing out the problems, today I'll be talking about the potential solutions for the game. The current problems with competitive can be split into three parts. First is a matchmaking rating, or the MMR system. In Overwatch, MMR and competitive rank are separate. Although the players are divided semantically by their ranks and divisions, matchmaking is based on the internal MMR. The separation between rank and MMR is not necessarily a problem itself. We can see this in other games like League of Legends, for example. Then why is the current MMR system a problem? Let's take a look at the distribution of MMR and the curve of this graph. It's a normalized curve, aka a bell curve. Although this is the MMR distribution for quick play, based off the previous rank distribution in Overwatch, we can confidently assume the competitive MMR and rank distribution is likely the same. So to put it shortly, the majority of players are consolidated in gold and plat, and we have three reasons to believe this is true. First, there was a survey conducted by Aichi during Overwatch 1, and it resulted in the same normalized bell curve. The results support our hypothesis that the players are consolidated around gold and plat, but because this was a survey, it isn't a definitive resource. Second is data scraping. The website Esports Tales previously scraped Overwatch rank distribution data before the implementation of role queue, and the data was updated monthly up until 2019 when Overwatch was terrorized with the GOATS meta for an entire year. If we plot Season 16's data from 2019, we can also see that the players are consolidated in gold and plat rather than silver and gold. Third, this is our recent community post asking about your ranks. As expected, we can see the majority of the player base is consolidated around gold and plat rather than bronze and silver. We can see the same normalized bell curve occurring with high gold or low plat at its peak. Although we can technically only assume the MMR distribution of Overwatch 2, chances are our assumptions are correct. Blizzard's post on MMR distribution as well as the various data suggests this normalized curve in the current competitive system. And this is our first problem. The rank and MMR distribution shouldn't be a normalized bell curve. It needs to be closer to a logarithmic distribution. At least 50% of the player base should make up silver and gold. While we increase in ranks, the number of players need to noticeably decrease. There's a reason most competitive games choose to have a distribution like this. League of Legends, Apex, Valorant, you name it, they all share a bottom-heavy MMR distribution. Overwatch also had a bottom-heavy distribution during the beginning of the game, and the data is available on the previously mentioned Esports Tales website. Season 3 and even up to Season 8, Overwatch had the ideal rank distribution, but as time went on, the game began experiencing rank inflation, leading to the current normalized graph where plat has the highest number of players. In other words, Overwatch 1 launched with a logarithmic distribution, but whether because whoever was in charge randomly disappeared or who even knows what happened, the MMR distribution got screwed up and it was directly transferred to Overwatch 2. The current bell curve becomes a problem for both high and low rank players. Let's talk about the low ranks first. In general, the lower the rank, the less likely you are to be invested in the game itself. So depending on the person, the total number of games played heavily varies. Keeping in mind players who are talented but simply don't play as frequently as others, when you distribute the ranks in a normalized form, the rank system has no other choice but to be an inaccurate representation of each player's rank. Even a bigger problem is the number of negative experiences. The normalized MMR distribution inevitably makes it more likely for players in the lower tiers to experience demotions and provide negative experiences in competitive. Players who are new to Overwatch 2 are already going through this problem. Because new players initially started off at gold close to the average MMR, the majority of these players would run into loss streaks in competitive. In order to fix this problem, the devs lowered the average MMR of new players, but this is only a temporary fix and it doesn't solve the underlying issue of the normalized curve. In reverse, if the rank distribution is closer to a logarithmic, this can increase the desire to climb ranked for lower players and reduce the stress of deranking in the first place. Starting your ranked experience with a 10-game loss streak into another 10-game loss streak just to place in silver versus the average MMR being silver and giving you the starting opportunity to rank up is very, very different. No matter how you look at it, the second option is obviously going to be a better choice. The normalized distribution becomes a problem in the higher ranks as well. Specifically, the spectrum of high ranks is far too limited. The highest tiers in general have the highest interest in the game, so it's important to spread out the rank distribution in the upper percentiles. Currently, the tier ceiling in Overwatch is too low. There are top 500 500 players for every rank, which is 1,500 players, including open queue and the combined leaderboard. That's 2,500 spots for the highest ranks in every season. The normalized distribution also leads to an increased usage of alt accounts. Because the ceiling is so low, it makes it convenient for players to play on multiple accounts while retaining top 500 or Grandmaster status. And the more alt accounts in top 500 there are, the worse of an experience it is for players in Diamond and above. So it's pretty clear that a normalized rank distribution is a problem, with Plat having the highest number of players and the rank ceiling being far too low. Then what exactly is the solution? There of course can be many ways to solve the problem, but the most obvious way is to just follow the leader. There's a reason League of Legends is the most successful competitive game in history, and whether you enjoy League or not, we can still acknowledge that fact. All the issues we've discussed so far are problems the League of Legends community also experienced throughout the past 10 years and have ultimately fixed. The League of Legends community was in distress because of the same issue 10 years prior, which is why the most fundamental rank system, the ELO rating system, was discussed in the community. The ELO rating system is the mathematical basis and origin of the modern MMR system, and has made tremendous impact on most online multiplayer games, influencing both early League of Legends and Season 1 of Overwatch 1. But the mathematical model of the ELO rating system has a normalized distribution at its core. Some might argue that a normalized distribution is the most fitting because it's a good reflection of statistics on a population, but at the end of the day, there are almost no games that directly implement the ELO rating system. Even League of Legends placed their own rank distribution system on top of the ELO system after Season 3, which is how the current logarithmic or log normal distribution came to be standard practice. So what the devs need to take note of is the number of players in the League of Legends MMR distribution. As League of Legends continued to be serviced for over 10 years, they also experienced rank inflation in the game, and as a solution, they created additional ranks on each ends of the ranked spectrum. Ideally, the devs should have redistributed the MMR coming into Overwatch 2, but as of now, it's a tad bit too late for that. If they redistribute the ranks now, there would be too much backlash coming from the immense number of players being deranked for this purpose. Although with the quote-unquote soft resets that occur at the start of every season, it wouldn't be completely out of the question. But as mentioned before, it's probably the best choice for now just to copy League of Legends. By creating Iron as a rank, we can expand the number of players across the lower tiers, and on the opposite end, either create a higher rank above GM, or even decrease the number of top ranked players to increase competition. Of course, the solution isn't completely void of problems either. For example, this change could make it easier for Smurfs to run games in lower tiers for a longer period of time, and players can take advantage of duoing with lower tier players by boosting their MMR during initial placements with large win streaks. But I do think this could be solved by preventing players from queuing as a group during placements, which can also help with the frustration and confusion of when grouped players get placed in different ranks. The second topic of today's video is negative experiences, and this refers to a collective set of problems that contribute to negative gameplay issues. The 7 wins and 20 losses system, and the fact that only the wins are displayed in the progression, being unable to see other players' ranks, private profiles, being unable to see groups, they're all along the same lines. The idea is to hide away losses and negative things from the player to eliminate the source of stress, but this is a huge issue because rather than fixing the core problem itself, these systems simply shove everything into the closet and pretend that they were never there to begin with. It's unpleasant and frustrating for players who genuinely enjoy playing the game competitively. Of course, reducing the stress for players is technically a good thing, but the most important part is how the stress is reduced, not just the act of doing it. The current solutions in Overwatch 2 degrade the fundamental desires of competitive play, so it's going to be crucial how the devs deal with these issues moving forward. Let's talk about potential solutions. For the 7 wins and 20 losses system, I don't think the periodic updates to your rank is a problem in and out of itself, but completely hiding away the losses in your competitive progression is just wrong. We can see this in all the comments and Reddit posts about players who experience quote-unquote win streaks and getting deranked, which is most likely because the losses were completely forgotten about. So by displacing the losses, everyone can more accurately assess whether the rank up or down was deserved or not, or even whether there actually is a problem with the rank system. And as for career profiles, I can understand the reasoning for implementing this. In the past, players were often scrutinized and flamed when they would opt to play heroes that weren't their most played. But I think the sentiment on this matter has slightly changed over time, and by completely making all of the information private is a limiting factor to competitive games. So perhaps only displaying the most played heroes without the hours could be super helpful in understanding what kind of strategies or compositions the team could play and can create more room for productive suggestions during the game, like asking to swap for a specific hero rather than just yelling to switch off as an open-ended state. Group queues are also important to the game and can encourage friends to play together, and has its own benefits, but the groups should be displayed in the game so that the players can know whether matchmaking is still making the games balanced. This one is more for the competitive integrity of the higher ranks, but I'd argue that at the highest tiers, group queues should not be allowed, because who in the world wants to play against pro players who are duo queuing and completely obliterate the opponents? But of course, these are all personal opinions, and at the end of the day, the most important part is going to be how well the devs communicate with the player base to solve these issues. To add on, avoid as teammate, kill cam, hide username settings, etc. These are all sensitive topics that requires the devs listening to how the players feel, but it's been frustrating to have private profiles released, then receiving little to no communication from Blizzard for the next 3 years. Luckily, coming into Overwatch 2, the dev team has improved leaps and bounds in terms of communication, so I'm starting to have a lot more faith in Blizzard. But I do feel that the current systems in place disrupt the competitive integrity of the game, and I can't wait for some of the competitive changes to be announced for the coming seasons. The last topic for today's video are some additional issues with the competitive system itself. First, the spectrum of the current matchmaking is too wide. In tandem with the MMR issues discussed earlier, it's negatively impacting the quality of matches, but I want to give the benefit of the doubt to the system because we're still early on into Overwatch 2, and this could just be a problem caused by a lack of players. Is it better to have 20-minute queue times instead? That I'm not so sure of. Second is the rank symbols. Even within the same tier, you can't tell whether you're in High Master 1 or Low Master 1, which can be the difference in ranking up after 1 session or 2 sessions. And for the highest tiers, it's become impossible to distinguish skill rating in top 500, which is another issue often discussed in the community. So at the very least, a numerical representation in each tier seems to be necessary for the ranked system. Third is the scoreboard. I wish it was possible to see the scoreboard after the game, and it would be nice to have some extra time after watching the play of the game to talk rather than kicking you out of the lobby immediately. My golly, why not just copy League of Legends at this point? Fourth is a stat for healing received. I think this would be extremely useful for solving issues mid-game, and since I'm sure Overwatch already tracks most of these stats anyway, it wouldn't be difficult to add. And for Overwatch specifically, this is a really important stat for players to be able to view. Fifth, this is a small one, but I think it would be nice if the new maps could enter competitive 2 weeks after the season starts rather than right at the beginning. Sixth, I feel like the competitive season is a bit too short. I'm sure everyone has different opinions on this one, but with the hotfixes and patches coming through every 2 to 3 weeks, I think it would be okay to extend the competitive season to be a bit longer. Since the main patch cycle and battle pass is supposed to correspond with each competitive season, this probably isn't subject to change, but maybe each season could correspond to 1 hero release with a new map being added during the mid-season, with 2 battle passes or 1 battle pass with double or even triple the rewards. By having season 1 equate to 1 new hero, each season can have its own distinct identity, and I think this is a plus. This might align to an extent with the negative experience portion, but I also feel that the soft reset going down 7 tiers every 2 months is way too stressful, and the grind is just too long per season just to get back to your own original MMR or rank. So by having the seasons longer, we can reduce the stress of soft resets as well. Lastly, please reveal the data of the player base, including the ones hidden by private profiles. It would make our lives so much easier for our top 500 tier list videos if the data was straight up available, and we would be able to relay even more helpful information to everyone in the community. We've discussed all the problems and potential solutions to Overwatch 2's competitive system, and if you have any suggestions or thoughts on how the competitive system can improve or have any feedback on the video itself, let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.